Poor Jim Lampleys. Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? Well, I surely can thank Lomachenko for not making me look like a prophet tonight. That's for damn sure. Now, the first thing I want to say is congratulations to Orlando Salido for putting on a terrific performance against a guy that he was favored to lose to. Like I said, I picked Lomachenko to win this fight. And for the first round, I started to look a little bit like a prophet. But after that, it started to go all downhill. Now, in the first and the second round, it looked like Lomachenko pretty much did everything I thought he needed to do to win this fight decisively. Okay, you could see a disparity in the speed advantage going to Lomachenko. He was landing these accurate laser right hands that was going straight down the pipe, straight through Orlando Salido's gloves, and that was very impressive. Now, it wasn't until the third round that I realized that Loma might be in a little bit of trouble. Because in the first minute of that third round, he did something that I thought was unusual, at least for someone like Lomachenko to do this. Especially if you listen to Jim Lampleys, the way Jim Lampleys was pumping up Lomachenko, which we're going to get into that later on. But anyway, Lomachenko, he did something that I like to call a scoop and grab, or a scoop and hold, however you want to put it. What he basically did is he was standing right in front of Orlando Salido, right? Neither one of them are punching. Orlando is coming forward. He's walking forward, and what Loma does is he basically gets real low, and then he goes under, and then he grabs and he holds Orlando Salido for no reason at all. The reason why this is so unusual because there were no punches being thrown. He initiated a clinch before Orlando Salido even threw one punch. Okay? That is something you don't see too often. Certainly not from a fighter that people like Jim Lampleys are trying to feed to the media as being this complete tough guy. So basically what I mean when I say tough guy is if you guys go back and you watch Loma's pro debut against Jose Ramirez, I believe his name was. In that fight, Loma, he looked great. He was showing terrific speed, foot movement. A lot of foot movement he was using in the ring. Okay? Now, what Jim Lampleys likes to do, because he's extremely biased, is he likes to create a distinction between certain fighters that move around in the ring. Okay? And what I basically mean is, for example, if Tim Bradley is moving around the ring, Jim Lampleys, he will call it retreating. If Floyd Mayweather takes a back step, it's called retreating, it's called running. All right? Now, the dilemma that this creates for Jim Lampleys, though, is once he gets one of his new favorite fighters, one of his hopes comes along, and they start to move around the ring just like Floyd Mayweather, Tim Bradley, or whoever else he doesn't like, right? So now, how are you going to make sense of this? How are you going to explain that this guy, he's moving around the ring, but he's a tough guy? He's not a reluctant coward like those guys that Jim Lampleys doesn't like. How is Jim going to explain this? Okay? This is how he tries to rationalize and explain it. Basically, what Jim Lampleys said when Loma was moving around the ring against Jose Ramirez, he said, well, you know what? Loma, he moves around the ring. But see, unlike those boxers, Loma doesn't have to rely on the jab. He moves around the ring, and he doesn't even throw that many jabs. So what Jim Lampleys is basically saying, if you read between the lines, is, yeah, Loma, he moves around the ring. He bounces and floats around the ring. But unlike those other guys, when he bounces around the ring, he's throwing nothing but bombs. He's throwing nothing but power punches or power shots. Okay? That is the distinction. That's what Jim Lampleys is basically saying. He's a tough guy. Yeah, my guy bounces around the ring, but he's a tough guy that bounces around the ring. Okay? The other day I was reading a very interesting quote that really corroborated all of the things that you normally hear me talking about on my videos. especially when I'm talking about someone like a Jim Lampley and other people as well. So here's the quote. Truth without love is brutality. Love without truth is hypocrisy. You follow me? Let's break down exactly what that quote means if you don't already get it. Truth without love is brutality. What does that mean? That means that the truth hurts. That means the truth can be painful sometimes. When you're giving it to them raw, this is what I do on YouTube. I speak the whole truth. Okay? Let's look at the other part of that quote. Love without truth is hypocrisy. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means people like Jim Lampleys who say, when that person moves right there, he's a coward. Oh, but you see that guy right there? When he moves around the ring, that is what you call a tough guy. That is what you call love without truth equals hypocrisy. So with that brief intermission out of the way, let me explain to you guys why that's very relevant to what we're talking about here with this Lomachenko fight against Orlando Salido. Okay, now I already explained to you guys that in Loma's first pro debut fight, Jim Lampleys, he brought up the contrast, saying that Lomachenko, yeah, he moves around the ring, but he doesn't jab. He doesn't have to jab when he moves around the ring. And then in the beginning of this fight, when Loma was still doing good, I guess the first 2 rounds, Jim Lampleys brought it up again. This time, he used statistical facts. He said, oh, well, you know, we checked the stats, and it shows that Lomachenko, he throws less jabs than any other boxer, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Now, and as long as I've been watching boxing, I can't recall hearing a commentator actually applaud a guy for not utilizing the jab that much and having one of the lowest percentages of using a jab. That is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because this jab is one of the main reasons why Lomachenko lost this fight. I mean, he lost the fight for many reasons, but the jab is one of the main reasons he lost this fight. Why? Because Lomachenko, he had a hell of a height and a reach advantage over Orlando Salido if you watch the fight. Okay? The intelligence, the experience, the amateur experience of being a boxer, especially a European boxer. European boxers are known to be straight up, stand up type boxers that throw a lot of straight punches. So it was really, really strange to see Lomachenko not really utilizing his jab at all. And he made the fight a lot more easier for Orlando Salido. Now, we already know coming into this fight that Orlando Salido was not going to win this fight by outboxing Lomachenko. We knew that his best chance of winning this fight was to get on the inside, right? That was really the only way he was going to win this fight. Let me ask you a question. How do you keep flies out of your house? You keep the damn door closed, right? Hell, I remember when I was a kid, I heard my parents yelling that all the time. Keep that damn door closed and stop letting all the flies in the house. Right? And see, the problem with Lomachenko is since he doesn't use the jab too often, he's leaving the door wide open. And that big-ass fly, Orlando Salido, he keeps walking right in the damn house. Getting what he wants. Getting on the inside. And that was a major invitation for Orlando Salido to win this fight. Don't get me wrong, there were other factors obviously as well. One of the other main factors was the lack of experience that Loma had, no doubt about it. With a fighter like Orlando Salido jumping on you like a cheap suit, and as the rounds progress, he keeps getting more and more aggressive as you feel the pressure closing in like the walls closing in. That could definitely psychologically break a person down, okay? And not only that, but a lot of European amateur fighters, they're not really used to even sparring with a fighter who fights with that type of style that Orlando Salido has. And yeah, that had a lot to do with it as well. And on top of all of that, Lomachenko, he looked very uncomfortable on the inside. And that kind of surprised me because when I watched his first pro debut fight, he looked like the complete package. I seen him fighting on the inside. I seen him using foot movement. I seen him do all different types of things that was very impressive. But at the same time, he wasn't in the ring with a world-class fighter. And once he got in the ring with a world-class fighter, it was a whole different ball game. Going back to the jab, which was a major factor in him losing this fight. If you go back and you look at Salido versus Mikey Garcia, even though that wasn't Mikey Garcia's best performance against Salido, in contrast to Lomachenko fighting Salido, Mikey Garcia, he did utilize a lot of jabs. We all know Mikey Garcia, he has a very impressive 1-2. And he utilized the jab and the right hand quite often when he fought against Salido. So Mikey Garcia, for the most part, he was able to keep that door closed when he was fighting against Orlando Salido, at least until the later rounds came, and that's when Salido, he started to close the gap and he started to get through that door. And by that time, Mikey Garcia was able to quit because he had a broken nose. So we really don't know what would have actually happened in that fight, but that's the reason why I say that wasn't really Mikey Garcia's best performance, despite him knocking down Salido so many times. But like I said, if you're comparing it to what Lomachenko did, Lomachenko, he kept the door wide open and made it very easy for Orlando Salido. And before I run out of time, let me go ahead and also bring up the many excuses that Jim Lampleys in classic fashion was trying to make by defending his hope Lomachenko when it comes to taking away credit from Orlando Salido for the reason why he won this fight in a very impressive fashion. What Jim Lampleys started to basically harp on, and then later on you would also hear Roy Jones, he started to feed off of it too. They kept making excuses basically saying, oh, but you got to remember this guy is bigger. He didn't make weight. He's 11 pounds bigger than Lomachenko. And they kept saying this throughout the fight. He's fighting a bigger guy. Once again, love without truth is hypocrisy. I mean, think about it. Jim Lampleys is defending his new hope, Lomachenko, because he's losing to a guy that has an 11-pound weight advantage. But if you think about the double standards, didn't Floyd Mayweather have a 15-pound weight disadvantage when he was fighting against Canelo? Didn't Guillermo Rigo have pretty much a 20-pound weight disadvantage when he was fighting against Donaire? Go back and watch the fight. It looked like Donaire was 3 divisions higher than Rigo the night of the fight. Okay? And Floyd Mayweather, he's done this many times. When he fought against De La Hoya was like 20 pounds bigger than him. Baldomir was like 17 or 18 pounds bigger than him. This is what the greats do. They fight through adversity, right? Just like Lomachenko said in the interview, it's all mental. It's all in the head. When they tried to feed him an excuse, and Lomachenko, being the good person that he is, he was like, nah, the weight didn't matter. I didn't care about his weight. It's all in the mind. It's mental. I thought I was going to beat him no matter what size he was. Okay? And that post-fight interview with Max Kellerman and Lomachenko, it was comical because Max was trying to feed Lomachenko every excuse in the book, and Lomachenko just would not bite. Then after all the excuses that Max Kellerman tried to get Loma to use, he finally said, well, I commend you for not taking the bait and using any excuses. Not taking the bait. So that means you admitting that you tried to help him out. Instead of acting as a journalist, Max Kellerman, he was acting as a defense attorney. Well, anyway, I'm sure Lomachenko, he'll bounce back. I don't know how far he can go, but he will bounce back. And this also solidifies what Guillermo Rigo was able to do with only 11 fights. I'm on to the next one, guys.